Dudes, it's Gaz, and welcome back to the Warframe video. So we got Gloom Banshee updated for 2024 today. This is an extremely powerful and useful build for plenty of types of missions in Warframe. Some new mods were added that make this even better than ever, and some new arcanes for that matter too. So let's get right into going over the 2024 version of this extremely powerful build. But before we do, make sure to sub this channel. We do daily Warframe video uploads. Also check out the live stream channel. I'll probably be live tomorrow with some more Warframe. And yeah, lots of the build testing for this did happen on stream. Additionally, it's not just a Banshee video. We've also got Diriga, the Miter, the Incarnon, and the Tenant Cycron all being covered in this video as well. So let's get right into it. Alright, so the idea of this build is going to be using the Gloom ability from Sevagoth, and also like mini stuns to combine together to basically make the enemy stun locked. So I'm going to summon in like 20 heavy gunners that are not going to be paused, but they sure will look paused after we cast our abilities on them. So we're going to use the third ability of Banshee to stun, fourth ability from Sevagoth to slow, and the stun and the slow combined together make these enemies really like what is this one even shooting at, honestly? So that being combined with Diriga, our special Diriga build will put rad procs and a bunch of other procs enemies, making them, they're just not going to be able to know what to do against us. Additionally, we can use the new melee crescendo arcane to get infinite 12x hate Incarnon, which basically makes it where this scythe hits extremely hard, like harder than most weapons in the game. And just lets us hit really hard and take out Demolus in like one hit. I don't even have the full combo right now. These guys are definitely done for, so pretty nice stuff. Yeah, with a 3x multiplier, you're like, what was that, like a 2.7 million? So it can do some pretty nasty stuff. Now I'll show how to combine all these things together for the massive damage, and what types of missions this will be good in. It's also quite fun. I find it fun, personally. Now, making the enemies kind of useless and unable to fight back might be boring to some players, but, there's certain missions where this could be kind of useful, such as, like, disruptions and maybe survivals, interceptions, things like that. So let's get right into covering what's going on with this build. As I stated, we do have Gloom from Sevagoth on our fourth ability, and I'll explain why in a little bit here. Why it's the fourth ability, that is. But as far as the Archon Shards to start things off with, we got 2 casting speed Archon Shards. This will allow us to use our weak point ability Sonar a lot quicker. We also cast Sonic Boom pretty quickly, and the other abilities don't really need casting speed, so you could technically take those off if you don't really want to use Sonar or Sonic Boom. But this is a versatile build that you could use a Sonic Boom augment mod on sometimes as well. Also got 3 ability strength shards. I did choose to use non-Taus on this build just to make it a little bit more accessible, but if you have Tau shards, obviously you can just bump up the power and the casting speed even more, or try some other stuff. As far as our weapons, we got the Miter for breaking nullifier bubbles, the Cycron for just being good against pretty much everything, and the Hate Incarnon being an extremely powerful scythe with a guaranteed slash proc on heavy, which is going to be really nice. Alright, starting off with the first build, we got one for Banshee here. Now, as far as what mods you could switch out on here, the flex slot is definitely this one right here. I've got Savage Silence to make us have even more finisher damage, which we use with Arrow Periphery to get lots of crescendo kills. I also believe this does set enemies up for stealth damage when they're standing if they're slowed, so the combination of Gloom Slow and the Banshee Silence, they're just stuck in the stun animation for a long time. You can just slice them for a lot of damage. But you can switch this out for lots of things. So there's the other augment called Sonic Fracture for Banshee, removing enemy armor when you cast her 1. That's if you feel like you need armor strip, that could be great, but we are using a slash proc, so they can bypass armors, to be a reminder. There's also Streamline can be good in that slot too. Since we are running a Gloom build, we do drain energy over time, and Streamline will make it where you're draining less energy over time. So without Streamline, it goes up to like 4.1 drain per enemy at the maximum. With Streamline, it's like 2.8. So it does chop off a good amount right there. Now, as far as the build here, most of these mods are going to be pretty important. You could argue Resonance is not important, but I like to run Resonance. But we've got Brief Respite to give us some shields whenever we cast an ability, just in case we're surrounded by overguard enemies, it can give us some shields back. Prime Sure-Footed, so if you get attacked by like a heavy gunner and like they use their special attack on you, you won't get knocked over. Although they probably have a hard time doing that because they're all going to be stunned. But still, it's a good mod to run if you have it. Prime Continuity to make those abilities last longer. These abilities do have a duration, so we've got 54-second duration with this amount of duration. So if you want to remove a little bit, it will be recast abilities more often. Savage Silence makes enemies take increased finisher damage, and it also staggers enemies with the third ability. It makes them take a lot of damage from finishers, so that's pretty funny. And also, like I said, I believe it makes them take stealth damage from normal melee attacks too while they're in the animation. Prime Flow, because it's one of the best mods in the game. We have 755 energy with this build, and you should not be running out of energy that much. Constitution, now if you don't have Constitution maxed out, Augur Message is pretty much the exact same thing, it's just 4% less duration. You can just run that instead if that's all you have, but Constitution is technically 4% more duration, although the knockdown recovery part is not needed for us because we have Prime Sure-Footed. Rolling Guard, because this is meant for Steel Path, so in case something goes wrong, you can Rolling Guard and re-shield gate with your Sonar or your Sonic Boom. Resonance, again, this is up to personal preference on this one, but when an enemy is destroyed by a weak point from her second ability, Sonar, which gives you a damage multiplier, it will recast the ability again in the area, giving you multiple Sonars recasted. Now, the big new mod on this one is going to be Precision Intensify. This gives you 90% ability strength on your 4th ability. And since we put the Gloom ability on our 4th ability with Sevagoth, or from Sevagoth, it means we're getting a ton of extra power strength on Gloom specifically. This mod will not buff your Savage Silence multiplier, your Sonar, or if you're running Sonic Fracture, your armor strip percentage of that. Keep that in mind. It is mainly here for Gloom. And I think it is pretty much worth it because Gloom can go up to like a 95% slow. Once we use Molt Augmented and we use Matarite, we should be about at that number after everything's said and done. So the enemies will be literal slugs. And the last one, Archon Stretch. This will go nicely with our Diriga. When Diriga shocks things, it counts as an ability for some reason, and we get to get some energy regen in there. Now you can regen energy while Gloom is up, but it has to be not currently draining any energy. So there must be no enemies nearby. It's a nice little combo though. Shocking them while they're slowed makes them really hard. Like they can't really move around that much. Molt Augmented for more power strength for all of our abilities, and Archon Energize. If you have it, you can run it. You don't really necessarily need this, but I would recommend it on this build just to get a bunch of extra energy when you pick up an orb. Alright, so I'll go over the weapon builds and a little bit of gameplay. We have Diriga here. Now, I haven't made a Diriga video before. This thing is actually pretty underrated for some players. If you haven't looked at Diriga in a while, you might want to look nowadays, because with the new Bond mods, this thing can do some good stuff. Alright, now, we also, the Prime Burst Laser, the Prime Laser Rifle is a highly recommended option for this as well. I'll tell you why in a second here. Okay, so, on the Diriga, some of these mods can be switched off, like, for example, Astral Bond. This is basically for Void Cascade, and I don't really play Banshee and Void Cascade, so you can take this off for pretty much anything else you want. We got Arc Coil. This is the main ability for Diriga. You don't really need the other one. Sentinel will zap 7 enemies within 10 meters, dealing 100 electric damage with a 10% status chance. This will apply the statuses from your Sentinel's weapon if you run the Manifold Bond mod. So we run this and we run this together, and that's why you see like 5 procs the enemy. Additionally, we want some big damage, so Tenacious Bond is going to give us increased critical damage on our frame if the companion has up to over 50% crit chance. That will look now maybe you're understanding why I'm saying use the laser rifle. But we'll go over exactly why in a second. Your Momentous Bond, killing Eximus brings this thing back from the dead basically instantly. Vacuum to pick up that loot. Guardian to give you shield restore. This can be quite nice, as I believe this is affected by Manifold Bond, so if you just keep getting kills, it will be refreshing, so you'll get constant shield gates. Prime Animal Instinct. This is up to personal preference. I like to see where the loot is on the map and where the enemies are, but you do not necessarily need this. You could just put on a different mod here if you prefer that. Mystical Bond, every time it shocks enemies 5 times, you'll get a free ability cast, which can help your energy economy over the long run. Astral Bond, not really needed here. You could put on a different Bond mod, like, whereas the Duplex Bond could make the enemies get distracted with more illusions of your pets, or you could put on a Accelerated Deflection to make it regen its shields faster so it doesn't die as much, hopefully. But there's really lots of options, guys. You can put on Astral Bond, Aerial Bond to make more slows as well. It's really going to be up to you. And Prime Regen, the best mod for Sentinels, brings it back from the dead quicker. Okay, so now explaining why the Prime Laser Rifle is the option here, let's go ahead and look at the critical chance of these weapons we have here. So as far as high critical chance weapons that will work with this, we have ones like the Volklock, which only has electric damage on it. We got the Death Machine Rifle, maybe Death Machine Rifle. But as far as high crit chance weapons, there's really not that many. I think Death Machine Rifle might be able to do with like a God or Riven, but the Prime Laser Rifle has Impact, Puncture, Slash, and it has 15% crit chance. So if you have a critical chance Riven, you can make this work with the high crit chance requirement of of Tenacious Bond. And like I said earlier, the status effects of our Sentinel's weapon are applied through this. So we want the weapon that has the most procs available. If you only use the Volklock, you're only getting electric and whatever else you mod on there. So the best of the best is this. So we have Impact, Puncture, Slash, Heat, Radiation, and Viral. This thing's doing all those procs, and it's really, really good for Conditioned Overload. Additionally, since it's a Sentinel primary, you can put on the Aero Periphery set. If you watch my previous video on Melee Crescendo, this will let you get infinite 12x on any melee, which is kind of nice. So yeah, we've got a crit chance mod here and a crit chance ribbon. Like I said, a crit chance ribbon is required for this, guys. Even if you put on the corrupted critical chance mod, it will not reach 50% without a critical chance ribbon. You just need to get a roll with it on there. It does not need to be God roll at all. But yeah, that is a requirement for this build to make it function at full power. So, you know, stick it on viral with these. Got heat right here. And we got Aero Periphery for those finishers. Radiated Reload from the new tile set is going to be great for this as well. If you are running a critical primary, might as well throw on a Vigilante mod for some set bonus as well. So yeah, just get a critical chance roll. Does not matter what the other stats are, really, as long as it's not like... Actually, it doesn't even matter. Just don't get minus critical chance. That's all you really need on the Prime Laser Rifle. It also works on some other things, too. Like, I think the Death Machine Rifle, if you have a God roll, can also work. But let's go ahead and show this how this works in practice. So I am going to... yeah, might as well just not even pause them. We don't need to pause them with this build. So just going to go ahead and show how the Diriga works. So we cast our Silence, we cast our Gloom, they are slowed, and as you can see, that's like 2 rows of procs just from Diriga's stuff. So throw on some magnetic procs too, and the galvanized extra damage is really, it's quite a bit actually, so pretty good stuff. Then we cast Banshees too for some extra weak points, because overkill is the best kind of kill, and yeah, they're done for. 4 million damage with a 5x multi, like it really is quite easy. Yeah, they're just done for with this many procs. I mean, they're also like perma-stun, so it's kind of an unfair build if you really think about it. Alright, so let's go over the weapon builds and let's get some gameplay as well. Now, Diriga is going to work quite well on lots of frames, but it does work really, really well on Banshee with the Gloom because it just makes them... They're already slowed, so getting shocked again is going to make it pretty funny. We've got the Miter Incarnon here. As far as the tiers, or the upgrades, we've got Swift Saw Blades, Swift Deliverance, and Commodore's Fortune giving increased crit. And we're using this as an anti-nullifier weapon. With Neutralizing Justice, it will make the nullifier bubble get instantly destroyed. Well, 90% chance it gets instantly destroyed when you fire it at a bubble. If you don't have a Riven, maybe put like Hammer Shot there or something instead. And you can, of course, change the elements quite easily just by putting on like a viral mod, or a cold mod instead of this electric mod for viral. This thing hits really hard. It's just also really fun to use to me. Very powerful against Acolytes. For our pistol, we got a Magnetic Tenant Cycron. This is mainly just to deal with enemies that have shields. Because if you put a magnetic proc on them, the shield will be a lot easier to take care of. And if you don't have a Riven, you can put on Lethal Torrent in that slot instead. This is just a better version of Lethal Torrent, basically. And yeah, this is just going to be used as a easy mode weapon that has infinite ammo and just does not require reloads. So you just like fire it all over the place, everything's dead, and it's pretty easy. As far as the Hate Incarnate, this is the one that is pretty much the main weapon I use here because it just does so much damage. We've got Swordman's Flourish, Swift Break, and Subtle Force. Since we are using Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds on this build, you can really be flexible with this final tier Evo, whatever you feel like is the most useful to you. As far as the build, it is going to be a weird build to some players, but if you know what the Melee Crescendo does, maybe it won't be as weird after you read this. On finish or kill, gain initial combo for the rest of the mission. This will mean that we will have infinite 12x combo in our missions if we do things properly. So, yeah, we got Conditioned Overload on here for big damage because there's all those procs of the enemy from the Diriga, so that's great. We've got a Riven with heavy attack efficiency, so we can just spam 12x quicker than usual because it will drain it usually, but with a heavy efficiency Riven, or if you just put Reflex Coil on here, you can do back-to-back 12x's a lot quicker. So I would recommend a heavy attack efficiency Riven, or like just a good one basically. And since we're always at 12x, Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds will always be fully stacked, so make sure you use these. We got Amalgam Orchestrator for faster heavy attack wind-up speed, and Bane of the whatever you're fighting, because the Bane mods are going to be really nice on those slash procs. So let's go into a mission gameplay, and we can talk about this. I think I covered most of it. We also got Madurai. You can do whatever focus tree you want, really. If you feel like you need armor and shield removal, you can do Unairu. If you feel like you want some more energy economy stuff, you could do Zeneric. If you don't want to bother with shield gating, you could do Vazarin, and so on and so forth. Now, where is this build useful for? I think it's pretty useful in disruption missions. Now, I wouldn't recommend it really as much against shielded Demolists, because they are going to regen their shield through your slash proc, which is very annoying. And I also don't think I had Bane of like the Grenier on here, so not exactly a fully optimized run. But yeah, if you use your 12x Melee Crescendo setup, you will be seriously ripping enemies open with those slash procs. It is extremely deadly. And also, yeah, the Cycron just a nice easy mode gun. I recommend this for disruptions. It's good for like normal survivals. I actually used this build in Elite Archimedean as well, and it was quite nice. people think CC is dead, but when everything is this slowed and stunned and you're getting lifesteal for all your teammates from Gloom as well, it's a lot more useful than you would think, so I highly recommend it. It's also really good for Kuva Liches, too. If you want to one-shot a Kuva Lich, use this build and the Cedo, and you'll be good to go. The Lich will have no chance at all, basically. Like, just mob whatever element your Lich is weak to, and it's done for after that. So, pretty fun build. It can do some good damage. Now, of course, against Acolytes, it's going to be, they have damage. They don't care about status as much, but they do care about crits. So make sure you hit them with full crit damage there, and you'll take care of them very easily. And also, like I said, for shielded Demolos, actually, this is not a great example. In this run, we were actually letting the Demolos get through on purpose because we get guaranteed Axii relics. But yeah, it's really good against Grineer Demolos for sure. They have that nullification burst, but once if you're safe to go in the nullification burst, you will one-shot that Demolist with this kind of setup. Now, I've had some questions, too, recently from players like, hey, Gaz, I think the Aero Modset is broken. How do you properly proc this? And what's giving you problems might potentially be Diriga. When Diriga shocks enemies, it sometimes messes up the Aero Periphery finisher thing. So I can go ahead and show you how to do that in the sim real quick. But yeah, it does still work. It didn't patch it out since I'm the only person who made a video on it so far, from what I understand. So yeah, it is definitely still working how to get those finishers. Let's go ahead and show how you can do that. And of course, you could do melee or secondary outburst instead of Cascadia Flare if you thought that would be more damage. I don't really think it's as good on the Cycron because the Cycron's critical chance isn't that amazing. But it's going over how Aero Periphery works in the sim. Just a reminder what we're talking about right now. So I put the Aero Modset on my Sentinel weapon right here. Damage enemy while aim blinding puts him to sleep for 3 seconds upon landing. This was recently buffed, like last week, to make it enabling finishers. So we have Savage Silence, it's crazy finisher damage, and also, like Crescendo, every finisher kill gives us initial combo. So I'm not going to pause them again because you don't need to with this build. Now let's just go ahead and show how this works. So you just want to damage them a little bit while airborne, land, instantly do the finisher. Damage them airborne, land. See, it didn't work right there. I think Diriga messed it up. Damage them, land, finisher. If it's not working for you, it's just do it again, basically. If it didn't work the first time you attempted it, try it again a second time. Very easy with Gloom, obviously, because the enemy gets stuck there in time. So, like, we've done, like, a couple finishers so far. It's like, right there, it didn't work. Let's see how much initial combo we have just from, like, a couple seconds of doing this. Okay, so we're already at, like, 120 initial combo the entire mission. So, yeah, heavy attack, the combo comes back, and we just do that over and over and over again. Pretty much no problem at all, so, yeah. This build's pretty good to go. I'd recommend it highly, guys. Now, maybe don't do it in every mission. And also, if you're trying to have the Demolist get to the tower on purpose, like we were doing in that mission, turn Gloom off when you're near the Demolist, because you will slow the Demolist down so much that the Demolist is never going to get to the objective you're trying to have it get to. So, hope you guys found this video fun and helpful. I do think it's a pretty good build. I use it quite often on stream, so yeah. And of course, other weapons. The weapons are very versatile here. You don't have to use the exact things I'm using. I think the Scythe just looks really cool. The Cycron's nice and lazy, and the Miter has really, really good crit damage for taking out Acolytes. So, see you guys next one. Take it easy and peace.